could the Marcos administration be signaling a softer stance on the International Criminal Court? For that, we need some expert insights from someone with ICC connections. So let's bring in Attorney Kristina Conti, Assistant to Counsel to the ICC. But also, before we get into the nitty-gritty, just to make it clear again, if you could talk us through what your role, what your connection to the ICC is, because, you know, there's been a little bit of confusion over whether you work directly for the ICC or you just are aware of their inner workings.
Yes, good evening, ladies. I am an accredited counsel before the International Criminal Court. I'm listed as an assistant to counsel, but actually anybody can be qualified before the court as long as you present your credentials and qualify. But more specifically, I am part of the team in the National Union of People's Lawyers assisting victims of the war on drugs. And therefore, I have personality in this situation in the Philippines that is connected to the war on drugs.
Right.
In fact, we were one of the first few complaints presented before the court, groups presented complaints before the court. And well, we've been public about this. We are cooperating with the court regarding this investigation. And we hope to have some part during trial. We have to have some part in the representation of victims.
Attorney Conti, I wonder if you could weigh in on what we had been reporting. I'm not sure if you had dialed in early and caught the first part of our show, but the topic was whether or not the administration was softening its stance on the ICC, going from as far back as a year and a half ago, going from saying that no, we will not lift a finger to help the ICC and we will not let investigators into the country, to now, which is a more qualified statement along the lines of we will, what was the exact wording?
There's nothing we can do if they coordinate.
We will respond favorably.
If they course it through the Interpol.
The Interpol, that's right. This is Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin saying we will respond favorably to the ICC if they course it through the Interpol. What did you make of all of that?
Well, they are correct. There is legal basis for the Philippine government to position that way. And if we were to connect specifically, parang we make the jump between the ICC and the Interpol and the Philippines, the ICC and the Interpol have a cooperation agreement. The Interpol and the Philippines have some sort of agreement as well, the Philippines being a part of Interpol through the NBI. And therefore, any warrant of arrest that is coursed to the Interpol will reach the Philippines. So clearly, there is legal basis for this, and we've been talking about this. There is a Article 127 in the Rome Statute, a section thereof which says or talks about continuing obligations after withdrawal. So that's one. We still have continuing obligations. And to be frank, this is our I told you so moment. We've been telling the Marcos administration that you have to cooperate. There is legal basis. There is clamor from the victims. And for us, this declaration clearly points us to the direction that we have been insisting on in the first place. And on a last note, that position by Marcos, we were of the mind that it was wrong and it will be politically costly for him. If I remember, we told him that you will be expending political clout when you say, sige, hindi na ako hindi ko papayagang mag-imbestiga yung ICC. And at the same time, not investigating the case or the charges of crimes against humanity in the Philippines. But now, clearly, this is a call, or this is compelled by a call for justice on the part of the victims.
Attorney, can you qualify that conversation you had with PBBM? I'm supposing you had some sort of consultation about where things are at. Kailan po nagyari yung conversation or meeting ninyo? And can you provide us the context of that meeting?
Oh no, we did not have a meeting.
You didn't have a meeting.
These were exchanges of statements, so public statements.
Okay.
I think at the outset of his presidency, he made that statement that they will disengage. There was actually a point when Secretary Minardo Guevara, then later on who became the Solicitor General, wanted to clarify with the President about this premise of disengagement. Paano ba ito? How do you that point, the Philippines was in the middle of an appeal to the ICC regarding their request for deferment of the investigation. Because of these exchanges, parang tansyahan, as you mentioned earlier in your discussion, tansyahan, timplahan kung anong mangyayari. And now we're seeing the signals in the public statements. There are some efforts behind the scenes, sabihin na natin, where there have been some sort of, not really consultation, no, but running through some points like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? But I cannot say that we have been directly in touch.
Attorney, would you have updates as to the state of the case? Because we expect something to happen this year. Sabi 7 years ang usually time frame ng mga investigasyon ng ICC. What are we to expect for this year? Where are we at? And also, is the ICC considering the state of politics? Given that the elections are coming up, it might lead to a more polarized scenario. We also have the INC rally. I mean, all those displays of power nearing election time. Do we expect anything to happen before the midterm elections?
Well, the ICC isn't time-bound specifically by domestic schedules. So I don't think that they are looking at adjusting kumbaga, their timelines according to our electoral schedules. Of course, they're clearly watching. They know about this. And they might be weighing this in the context of, this is a factor, interests of justice. Would it be in the greater interest of justice to proceed with an investigation or to do something about it? But what I can say is that as regards the investigation on its own per se, we're moving forward. We talked about this at one of your previous episodes, the opening of the witness appeals. So
correct.
this is a platform, a microsite on the ICC website where they're calling for witnesses to come forward. Later on, and then on the whole, there have been developments as regards issuance of warrants of arrest. We thought that warrants of arrest would have been issued in the Philippine situation by December. What happened was the Palestinian situation. So issuance of warrants of arrest against Netanyahu et al. Just yesterday, in the Afghanistan situation, we saw the prosecutor request for warrants of arrest in their situation. So things are moving forward in the ICC, and hopefully we're up next.
I want to get your thoughts, speaking of investigation, on the Congress's conjecture to reopen the investigations on the war on drugs, on EJ case in particular, because you represent the victims of the drug war. One concern is their safety, bearing their accounts in these sessions, and also kung anong kahahantungan no. It's a very public hearing. Everybody might make a show out of it. What are your thoughts on that? And what are the families saying when it comes to those investigations being reopened?
We've heard mixed reactions from the victims regarding a reinvestigation of particular cases. I was there at the Quadcom when Congressman Abante floated this possibility. Father Noel Gatchalian had also floated the concept of a truth commission. But in a truth commission, it's more of catharsis. But with a reinvestigation, I put forward before the committee or before the Quadcom, that concept of security concerns. Not everybody would be happy to move forward and say and repeat whatever they have told the authorities before. And also, in some of these cases, remember that there is a category of killings of unknown perpetrators. We call this usually the vigilante killings. And even if they come forward today, I mean, it's unlikely that they could identify the persons involved. So for them, wala na, parang suko na. Ano ngayon kung mag-come forward pa kami? May mangyayari ba? So there is a lot of doubt on a large part of the victims. But then on the other hand, as a rule, I think we could support the reinvestigation of these cases as just a recognition na hindi nyo naman inimbestigahan in the first place. But I did say before the committee that perhaps we could give leeway or some portion or some pasintabi para dun sa mga victims na ayaw mag-participate. So, intindihin na lang yung sitwasyon nila. But on the whole, the concept of reinvestigating with the recognition or acknowledgement that you did not investigate or investigated poorly in the first place, that would be welcome.
Pero yun nga, attorney, kasi the other aspect or angle, no, or view on that so-called formation of the Truth Commission to reinvestigate, and we were chatting about this earlier, how it would play into, di ba kasi we call on the ICC because it is perceived na our justice system is not doing its job or insufficient siya or wala tayong sistema dito at hindi effective. That's why kailangan mag-step in ng ICC. Now, if we start reinvestigating it, could this be perceived? Napaka-simplistic nito, attorney, so bear with me. Parang since gumagana na, ni-reinvestigate na nila, so kailangan, parang pwede na ba, baka makita ng mga ibang tao, pwede na ba itong rason kung bakit no, dapat na mag-step back yung ICC sa kanilang investigasyon?
Well, not immediately. So I agree may ganung immediate or knee-jerk reaction na, ayan naman pala, gumagana, may nangyayari. But then again, we look at what the ICC does. It focuses on the most responsible. And when there is an investigation, I see mostly that the cases that will be looked into would be individual cases of killings. At ang masasangkot dyan, mga CPO1, PO2, SPO1. So it's the actual people on the ground who might be at risk of this investigation. But what is contemplated by the ICC as something that mirrors its own would be a massive looking into crimes against humanity. It depends on the parameters of this investigation if those who are quote-unquote most responsible will be covered. Kung aabot sa mastermind yung reinvestigation, then maybe the ICC will step back. Pero kung hindi naman, hindi rin. And also, I would like to remind many, although I realize hindi nga nila masyadong sinusundan yung ICC. Sa ICC, uso yung merong kaso sa ICC, tapos merong kaso sa domestic. Sa domestic, we can clearly do this. There could be domestic prosecutions of small fry, quote-unquote, and then the prosecution of big fry or the big fish would be with the ICC. This is also in consideration of political tensions. If you sue or if you prosecute the big fish in your country, it might cause a lot of trouble or tensions. And so you could leave it up to the ICC. You can maybe go after the small fry, yung mga kernel, etc., kung kakayanin. And that will tell us, that will show us how domestic prosecution and international prosecutions can work in tandem.
And just to bring it back to Gretchen's original question, which I piggybacked on, is this something that, is that how you, kumbaga, explain it to the victims' families so they can appreciate it in that way? Because, yun nga, like you said, it's been so long, nakakapagod, natatakot, napakadaming concerns. So may chance pa ba na, kumbaga, mag-iba yung the way they view these parallel investigations if it comes to pass?
Yes, actually. For many, so imagine the victims, who will they sue or who do they hold responsible? For almost all of these victims, they say, well, I hold Duterte responsible. My kin, my husband, my son died because he ordered it. When he took office, actually when he campaigned, he said, I'll kill you all, sabi niya sa mga drug addict, criminal, etc. And then they died eventually. So it is in a way, simplistic na siya yung sisisihin namin. But at the same time, there were other people in play. So you had the police officers who conducted the killings, vigilantes who did the killings as well, and so forth. So there is a whole array of people involved in this, including those, and dito na papasok yung some sort of politics, including those who should have done something but did not do something. And I'm even looking at the Department of Justice, prosecutors, who should have prosecuted these cases as early as 2016, but did not. And so with this whole array of people, there are a lot of prosecutions that you could pursue. For many, they say that dun kami sa kayang mag-prosecute ng mastermind because that is where it will be most effective. Kung maparusahan yung mastermind, okay na kami, okay lang kahit hindi yung mismong pumatay. But on the other hand, you have a group of people saying, well, I would also like to see the persons who pulled the trigger go to court. And yung interplay nun could be solved with both domestic prosecutions and international prosecution. Now, if a domestic prosecution comes up na si Duterte ang target, we're feeling this with the we're discussing it with the victims na okay ba sa inyo kung sa Pilipinas i-prosecute. They are contemplating it, but they are considering many factors. Una, would it be a fair trial or a fair investigation considering the power of the Dutertes? The daughter is vice president and she herself could be investigated because she was mayor or vice mayor of Davao during that period's covered. Second, would the possible involvement of a senator complicate things? Sitting senator, actually two sitting senators. Third, is there capacity on the part of our prosecutors and the courts na mag-prosecute ng crimes against humanity, yung pangmalakihan na? Kasi bago to first time yata na magkakaroon ng ganito kalaki. And lastly, it was promised. So last year, it was promised. For us, it was parang ito na, paano na? Parang we thought we would have to decide. But it's already January and no charges have been put forward. So for now, we really put our hopes up or pin our hopes on the ICC investigation.
Speaking of the local cases, the small ones, how difficult has it been to get evidence on that? I mean, we are talking about law enforcement here, and of course, they're experts with collecting evidence, and it has been many years since those crimes happened, if they are proven to be true. How hard, how difficult has it been to produce that evidence?
Ako, I think Dr. Raquel Fortuna, our forensic pathologist, will disagree with you when you said na they are experts at collecting evidence. On the contrary, they are experts at not collecting evidence.
Baliktad nga pala.
Baliktad at na-cover up. To put it in numbers, we saw about 200 cases. We documented, we reviewed, vetted cases, 200 killings incidents. We only proceeded and we were only able to go to court with one case.
And
One
confident
case
ba kayo?
where we successfully got a conviction.
Okay.
We were out of the 200, we were able to build up only 6. And of the 6, only 1 went to court. Buti na lang successful kami. So, it's going through, it's like finding a needle in a haystack, yung evidence. Kasi, as you mentioned, it's been 8 years, 8, or in some cases, 6 years. One thing that has been obvious is that the documents are with the police who would be the potential or the perpetrators in these cases. And if they choose not to produce these documents, wala. We've heard that with the CHR being blocked from getting PNP documents. Second, this is very particular, but this is very crucial. So remember, we're talking about shootings. And to establish who killed who, there is a test called the ballistics examination. So it matches the bullet, kung may marirecover ka sa body, na kung sabihin na natin, mahanap mo yun. So it matches the bullet to the gun that fired the bullet.
Right.
But it requires that as soon as possible after the shooting, you confiscate the gun and do the ballistics examination. You confiscate the gun and get the shell, and then you do the ballistics examination. Of the 7,640 cases of nanlaban, 7,640 as admitted by the PNP. Nanlaban lang to official police operations, may namatay na 7,000. I don't know of any ballistics examination that has been presented by the PNP. And kaya at one of the hearings na raise, where are all these 7,000 at least na guns? or makeshift guns
Right.
that were used in the nanlaban killings. Kasi ang sabi nyo, binaril kayo ng una nung mga patay.
Yeah.
At yung baril na yan, kinukumpiska. As to that, actually, the UN Office of the High Commissioner made a report in June 2020 or 2021. And they noticed that there were 5 incidents of repeating serial numbers
Right.
of these guns na ginamit
yeah.
di umano nung nanlaban. So this
Yun
would
nga,
be a very important portion of
Right.
that re-investigation.
The lack of physical evidence has long been a problem. But let's shift gears before we ask your final question, Attorney. You went a little bit viral recently
I
for,
was gonna say, you
for
yourself.
figuring in an exchange of words with former legal counsel Salvador Panelo. Actually, we have that soundbite, and with your indulgence, if I could just play that very quickly for our viewers.
Sure.
Pero sir, may 6,000.
6,000 yung recorded
Lang.
in connection with the performance of the duties of the police. Kaya nga sinasabi namin ever since, i-demanda nyo.
Sige sir, see you in the ICC.
Sorry, natatawa ako.
We were laughing after yung see you at the ICC kasi what happened after that? And set the context for
Well,
us.
Literally, that was the ending of that roundtable discussion. And we were supposed to take a photo all together of the guests. He refused. Sabi nga ni isang reporter, Ma'am, ayaw makipag-picture sa inyo. Well, he left right after. So we did not have an opportunity to discuss further.
Yeah.
Okay, so yun na yun.
He didn't want to
Yun na
talk
yun. Sabi ko
more.
nga, anticlimactic naman to.
Nabitin kami, attorney.
Well,
You have rapport.
Sabi mo may mga imbestigahan parallel to the investigation of President Duterte. Si Attorney Panelo, masasama ba siya bilang spokes siya ng Pangulo? Or wala siyang kinalaman sa ganun?
But actually, it was funny because the topic wasn't the ICC
Yeah.
or the war on drugs. It was something else. It was about the situation then because of the INC rally and then what are the prospects of the impeachment. Napunta kami doon.
Right.
And if I recall, I wasn't the one who raised that. He was the one who became defensive. Kaya sabi ko, pwede nga, no? Although I doubt that there will be any opportunities further na makikita pa kami because I'm sure they will be avoiding me from then on.